tech founder, MIT grad, skydiver, author, Isa Waton.
I've always been a builder. That has manifested itself in so many different ways throughout my life. At one point, I was building computers. At another point, I was building medicinal chemistry products. You have Facebook, you have Twitter, you have Instagram. What about, the ability to take those online connections offline at scale? That was what Squad essentially is and does. His philosophy was, if you can't build it, you shouldn't be using it.
What?
I've always had a building and fixing and engineering mentality from my dad. My parents grew up in a very values-oriented house. They instilled in me that it was really important to be a kind person, and that was really important to look after your neighbor. Giving back into your community, being a good person, being kind, that to me, I still hold really closely.
Sharing is still caring as an adult. Those examples that your parents set for you have stayed with you because that's what you do currently.
There was a lot of pressure. They said only 2% of PhDs in chemistry are Black. You are such a great researcher. You have to go get a PhD.
How did that pressure feel?
Social media is actually not social, it's media. 1% of the users are the people who are creating content. Everyone else just consumes it.
So that's the problem. So what did you do to solve it?
Your squad.
What do I love about a grown-ass woman? There's so much to love.
Now give it to me.
She's unapologetic. She shows up in every space exactly who she is. She wedges the door open for other women to follow. I'm Shannon Allen, and you're listening to Grown Woman. I'm so excited and grateful today to be joined at the Grown Table by my dear friend Isa Waton, CEO and founder of Squad, attended Hampton, Cornell, MIT, just to name a few, and happens to also be a skydiver with over 200 plus jumps under her belt. Welcome, Isa Waton.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Me?
I'm so excited to have you. Smartest woman I know.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Her credits and her list of accomplishments is like insanity, but I'm just gonna give you a few nuggets just in case you don't know who she is, so you can Google her and learn about her. 1, founder, tech founder. When we talk about women in STEM, women of color in STEM, this is what we're talking about, okay? Tech founder, MIT grad, championship skydiver, author, and to boot, has never had a single cup of coffee. How? How, Sway?
Green tea.
Okay.
Green tea.
So there's still some caffeine happening.
There's some caffeine.
Okay, but it's just not coffee.
Not coffee.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you. I want you to take us back to the beginning. Back to the beginning before all of the lists of accomplishments so that we can get to know you a little bit better before really learning what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, your journey started in?
My journey started, I grew up in North Carolina, actually, the Research Triangle Park region. And we moved there because my dad was an engineer and worked in Research Triangle Park. And, I always say that growing up where I was, 10 minutes from UNC Chapel Hill, 15 minutes, 20 minutes from Duke, in such a resource-rich environment, my parents had a huge focus on learning, right? And so I thought it was normal that my dad used to make me build my computers from the time I was 7. I was like, oh, everybody's getting taken to CompUSA and Circuit City and building their computers with their dad. Yeah, right. And his philosophy was, if you can't build it, you shouldn't be using it.
What?
So if a car knocks off on the side of the road, I'm opening up the hood and I'm like, yo, I'm like, okay, that's wrong. That's the issue. Because I've always had a building and fixing and engineering mentality from my dad. But even outside of that, my parents, grew up in a very values-oriented house.
Tell me about that. Tell me about your background. Were your parents immigrants to this country?
My dad was an immigrant. My mom grew up on a tobacco farm in North Carolina and went to segregated schools in North Carolina until 7th grade.
Fact checkers. So we want to act like what's been going on in America for the last 400 years is 400 years ago. It's not. We're talking about one generation.
My mom went to segregated schools in 7th grade, up until 7th grade. And it's really interesting hearing her talk about that experience because she still carries a lot of that to this day. She actually talks about in elementary school when she was in all-Black school, how there was a lot of love and nurturing and just such a great environment for her to learn in. But when she went to integrated schools, It was, she couldn't get a hall pass because she was Black. There were young women, young girls having their periods that couldn't go to the bathroom during the day. She would get a 90 on an exam, but then get an F, right? And so when you think about all of the things that my mom had to endure, the lesson that I really feel is working thrice as hard.
Yeah. Having to be extraordinary.
Half as much.
Having to be phenomenal, but still getting overlooked, underpaid, undervalued, over-mentored, under-sponsored. That is still, for most women of color, specifically Black women in America, that is still exactly what happens.
And my dad grew up in St. Kitts and Nevis. It's a small island that had 20,000 people when he grew up, and wore the same shoe for like 3 years, and had to walk like miles to school.
How did he find engineering? How did he fall in love with putting things in boxes?
My dad, he moved to St. Thomas his last few years of high school and got recruited by Hampton-University to be on the drum line.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Black Funk.
Cool.
That was his drumline name. He was a snare drummer. And so he immigrated to the United States on a marching band scholarship and fell in love. And he loved math and building before. My dad was, he was a cashier he was a cashier in high school for, his job on the side. And he was always like, they put me in the express lane because I was like, and I was really efficient with the bagging.
Yes.
I could do all the calculations in my head. And I was always trying to be faster.
Right.
And it doesn't seem like, to a lot of people, like, okay, you're a cashier. But he was like, no, like the way that he could pack the bags translating to the way that he could pack a car, translating to, the way
spatial relationships.
Applied mathematics, computer engineering is all connected.
Unbelievable. And also the music, the drumline piece is also connected.
Yep.
And there's like so much data around how music and science are intrinsically like the very same part of your brain. Or at least if you do really well in music, then math and science could potentially be easier for you.
But even beside the didactic components of what my parents instilled in me, they instilled in me that it was really important to be a kind person.
Yeah.
And that was really important to look after your neighbor. I always said that my house had a revolving door because there was always a kid living with us that needed a little bit of extra help. We already had 4 kids in the house, so it was a lot going on.
Right.
But we had an extra bedroom for another kid, right? And so giving back into your community, being a good person, being kind, not speaking negatively about people, that to me, I still hold really, really closely.
Those were tenets in your household. My grandmother had, my gosh, how many girls? 4, 2, 6, 8 children, 6 survived. And they had a full house. And my grandfather was an entrepreneur. And my grandmother was raising the kids. But my grandmother always said, you can always put more water in the soup. In her mind, that meant there's always more room for a child at the table, for somebody that needs a meal at the table.
Yeah.
And that kind of spirit of giving, of community, of being a sharer. Like, we say to little kids, like, sharing is caring.
Yep.
Sharing is still caring as an adult. And it sounds like those examples that your parents set for you have stayed with you because that's what you do currently now in your existing life. So growing up in North Carolina, 3 siblings, your dad's an immigrant, came to this
5
country.
siblings.
5 total.
The 2 were just older and
Okay, 2
out of
were older.
school. Yeah.
But 5.
Mm-hmm.
And you went to school. Did you know immediately and you went to public school, did you know immediately, like, I'm smarter than everybody else in here?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Right? I was really focused on, because my parents always said, hey, Isa, no matter how smart you are, you never have run out of things to learn. And you can always learn. And the day that you stop learning is the day that you stop growing. And so I've had a very evergreen learning mentality, right? So it wasn't really me to my peers. It was always me to me. How much more can I learn? But I actually got my first job at 14 in an organic chemistry research lab at UNC Chapel Hill as a researcher through this program, Project Seed, where I worked for the faculty during my summers off and had to grasp organic chemistry in high school. And so I went to school academically and played sports, and then I was doing research during the summers. And so I knew that, to be honest with you, I just thought it was normal.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, me and my friends are doing this.
Because there were other kids in there with you.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And so iron sharpens iron. So you guys were leaning on each other, being curious, wanting to learn, thinking outside of the box. Would you ever go back home and say, hey, Dad, what do you think about this? Would you bounce ideas off of him?
All the time. But, it's one of those things where my dad was an engineer. My mom studied accounting, right? But for most of my life, until I was 14, she was a stay-at-home mom because it was 4 kids.
What a gift.
At some point, I would come home and I would say to my parents, they were like, what'd you do today over dinner? They were really big on eating dinner together at the table, the whole family.
Us too.
No phones or anything like that. And, what'd you do today? I'm like, oh my God, I ran this, experiment. And, I talk about 1, 4, 7, 10 tetraacetylcyclododecane. And they were like, that's great. And they were like, we have no idea what you're talking about.
Exactly. But we love it for you.
We love it.
For you. We're so excited for you that you're learning this.
So at some point, it was kind of like, okay, this is like a little bit technical for them. They don't, they didn't study chemistry like that. So
incredible. And you're 14 years old and you're working with adults in a research lab.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you graduated high school? Did you
16.
graduate early? You were 16.
Yeah.
And so at 16, your parents are looking at you like, okay, you technically should have 2 more years. What happens next?
Well, I go to college. So I was supposed to graduate at 15, but my parents held me back a year.
Okay.
I had skipped 1 grade, and I skipped 2 grades. But instead of going back to school my senior year, I just went to take classes at UNC. My parents didn't want me going to college 2 years early. And so
they felt like you were too young for that socially, or they were just worried about you being on a college campus as a 15,
I think it was
16-year-old.
both. I think it was both. I wasn't popular in high school. I was very comfortable being alone. I probably had fewer social skills than the average kid. I was a little bit socially awkward. So my parents were like, yeah, no. And my dad was not very thrilled about me being on a campus with like 20-year-old boys.
Yeah, and you know what? That probably makes sense. It's like they're still going to protect you. It doesn't matter like how skilled you are, how developed your intellect is at a young age, or the fact that you even work with adults. They're like, you still are developmentally, physically, a 15/16-year-old.
Yeah.
We want to keep you home for a little bit longer. And how did you feel about it at the time? Did that feel deflating to you? Or did it feel like, they know what's best for me, I'll submit to 1 more year in school?
I think I felt neutral about it. I was like, okay, I'll go to, UNC and take calculus 2 and do other things and explore and play more piano and just focus on my research. That was just kind of like, okay, if this is what they've decided, I'm going to maximize my time. And, it wasn't worth fighting them on it.
So after that year at UNC where you were going to maximize your time and take squeeze every single drop of juice out of the lemon, what happened next?
I matriculated at Hampton-University, my dad's alma mater, and I studied chemistry, and I stuck with it. It's very interesting. When I was looking at schools and colleges, I was looking at Hampton, Howard, Spelman sometimes, or Duke or Stanford. It was very much, people, they think that you're in like one bucket or the other. But the reason I chose Hampton was because I grew up in a very predominantly white environment,
right,
where there's a lot of mixed signals. And I'm like, it was clear to me at a certain point where I didn't quite know who I was, and I wasn't quite comfortable navigating the world in my Black skin. And so when I went to Hampton, for one visit, we sat down with the Department of Chemistry chair. And when we learned that all of the seniors were going to top medical schools, top PhD programs, top schools, it made me realize that this thing that you hear in your head of like, oh, you can't go to an HBCU because you won't be able to do the things that you want afterwards, that wasn't true. And I knew that being in an environment with a lot of like-minded people, with people whose parents raised them like they raised me, that was one of the most empowering things that I could do.
Yeah.
People say they see MIT and Cornell on my resume a lot, but I'm actually Hampton-MADE. That's where I really got my grounding as a Black woman in America.
And what a grounding it was. So during that 4 years, do you think that in addition to your studies and your research capacity and all of the things that you were able to develop from a research perspective, did you also develop your social skills?
I developed way more social skills, and I developed more confidence. I developed a sense of who I was and who I wanted to be in the world. Because I think when you're at home, you're who your parents, tell you are. And I was able to find people who were a lot more equally yoked
Yeah.
in that environment at a much, higher success rate than I was in an environment where people were smart. They're fine, but it's very different from how you're grounded and reared at home.
And so the experience of being at an HBCU, being at your dad's alma mater, did you wear that Hampton pride? Like, I'm carrying on my dad's legacy. I've literally picked up the baton from the drum line and I'm gonna keep it going forward. Did you have that feeling of like, yes, I'm taking up the charge now and I'm walking in these footsteps?
Yes and no.
Tell me.
It's not that I don't believe in legacy, but I think that I've always been a very individualistic type person.
Yeah.
So I've never been like, I'm following in that person's footsteps. I've always been, I'm inspired by that person and their things that I would like to extract from that person. And I will walk with that and I will hold that tight. But Hampton-University at the time that I was there was 50% legacy. So, there was a lot of us there. It was less of following in my dad's legacy. It was more of wanting to make my parents proud for the woman that I was becoming and knowing that I was going to and continue to become my own self. Some of that, they're like, yeah. Other parts of that, they're like, no, And so, but I was really committed to becoming me no matter who had an opinion about it.
And so how did you determine what your next step would be?
When I was at Hampton, I spent every summer doing research at a very, very top research institution. So Cornell, California Institute of Technology, which is an MIT rival, National Science Foundation, UNC. And, I actually ended up training with some of the top chemists in the world, like Nobel laureates, people who were actually probably going to get Nobel laureates. And there was a lot of pressure, coming down on me of pursuing a PhD. They said only 2% of PhDs in chemistry are Black. You are such a great researcher. You have to go get a PhD. And
how did that pressure feel? Did you want it? Some people want the pressure.
I don't need pressure.
Okay.
I don't feel like I need pressure to move and to navigate. In retrospect, I was a robot. I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. So I'm going to go do it.
This is the next step. This is the legitimate next step. This makes sense for my journey.
Right. I got into every PhD program I applied to in pharmacology, but since I was focused on metabolic biochemistry and cancer biology, I actually matriculated at Cornell University, which was a tri-institution program between Cornell, Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and Rockefeller. So I could actually do research across the institutions, but still have my Cornell degree.
So when you were at Cornell and you had the ability to really delve into the kind of research that you're most passionate about at that time, and I know it's changed, but at that point in your journey, what were you most passionate about studying?
Really the combination of metabolic biochemistry, signaling pathways, and cancer formation. So when you look at various signaling pathways of certain proteins and enzymes in our cells, there's some causation and correlation factors when it comes to how cancer is developed, right? And so I was really interested in kind of those root causes, and I studied adenylyl cyclase, soluble adenylyl cyclase, and its role in metabolism.
Did you have a family connection to wanting to study?
I didn't. So interestingly enough, my mom's side of the family, they all struggle with heart disease. My dad's side of the family all struggles with diabetes, which is more on the metabolism side. And so I was really interested in, metabolic biochemistry and diabetes, but I actually didn't have any cancer in my family. But cancer, to me, the reason I studied cancer was, I remember my parents had an office in the house. I was like 12 years old. And this was back when Netscape was a thing where you can get on the internet.
Okay.
And the phone line would go out. And I would research, pharmaceutical companies. And the one thing I learned was that, there's no cure for cancer. There's so much, opportunity here.
So much money being raised.
To make progress here. But I wasn't thinking about money as a 12-year-old, right? And the other thing, too, is that, I looked at all the CEOs, Pfizer, Merck, et cetera, they were all white men with business degrees. And so I said to myself, okay, well, no one here actually has studied science and arguably understands the science, to the extent that, I do or they can. And so I was actually focus at that time on getting my PhD in pharmacology and going and eventually becoming a CEO of large pharma and building major therapeutics. That was the goal at the time.
That the people running the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world weren't necessarily scientists.
They weren't scientists. And the thing about it, to me, again, I thought that was normal, right? I was like, oh, everybody's researching what the gaps are. And that was a story I told myself. I said, okay, I'll know the science and then I can just learn the business.
And so from Cornell, then you went to MIT.
Yep.
And what was that experience like? We hear about MIT, we hear about Caltech, we hear about Stanford, we hear about these major institutions, these predominantly white institutions that are storied and produce maybe some of the smartest minds in the world. But you're, a 20-something, early 20-something.
So I left Cornell with my master's. I was the first person to pass my candidacy exam. But the big reality that I had was that I'm doing this for everybody else. I'm not doing this for Isa. And leaving Cornell was the first time in my life that I had done something against my parents' wishes. So it was actually kind of stepping into like who I wanted to be. And so I went to business school at MIT, but really focused on economics and financial engineering just because I'm a math person. And as a Black woman at MIT, I had actually one of the most awesome times.
Yes.
MIT is such a supportive institution. It is such an empowering institution. An exceptional amount of resources. I graduated over 10 years ago, and MIT my advisor still hit me up asking me, what do you need? Do you want to have your company offsite here? Here's some space. Or do you want this collaboration? Let's make a call to this professor.
So they're linking you with people now.
I was
10 years post-grad.
10 years post-grad. I was the youngest person on the executive alumni board ever appointed at that time. But I have such a great I have fond memories of MIT. MIT is one of my favorite places in the world.
I want that for every college student.
Yeah.
Or every, grad degree person.
People are generally surprised, but, I cannot say enough good things about the organization and the way that during my time at MIT, I went through a very insane tragedy with my dad passing away in a highway accident. And the way that MIT showed up for me when I was actually ready to just throw in the towel, that's something I will never forget until the day I die.
So what did they do?
So my parents sponsored a bus trip for kids to visit Hampton-University every year, open house. And my dad was the president of the North Carolina Hampton Alumni Association. And this particular year, the bus ran off a straight road in Virginia, flipped over and ejected both my parents out the front window. And my dad didn't survive that. And as you can imagine, things like that just change your life. And I had left MIT because I had finished my credits early. So I started at JP Morgan early, but I was still technically on paper a student at MIT. So they got in touch with me. They heard about it and they would call me like every day, every other day, text me. They found out that I wasn't eating. I didn't eat for like weeks. They sent me food.
My God.
To my parents' house.
What?
In North Carolina.
That's the kind of support.
Beyond that, my tuition account ended up having like a $1,500, $2,000 balance on it. And you get this note saying that, hey, in order to be cleared for graduation, you got to pay this balance or you won't graduate.
Right.
And I was like, I don't care. I told them, I was like, I don't care.
Because your relationship with your dad was so strong and losing him felt like the end for you.
It was my dad dying. It was also my mom being thrown out the bus. Losing all of her memory at that time.
My God.
Having to nurse her back to health. When I went back home to North Carolina, my mom, her memory was so gone, she couldn't tell you if her bank account was at SunTrust or Bank of America, or if her, energy bill was from Piedmont or Duke Energy. And so I had to piece together my mom's life while working at JP Morgan because I had to make money. Right? In the top 10% of performers, and still having to grieve my dad and also having to hold my mom because my mom and my dad were together for 35 years. And then
this is all they knew.
You lose your partner. Like they've been together since they were 23.
Yeah.
And so I was overwhelmed. And I was like, if you guys want to keep my degree, whatever, you can keep it. And next thing you know, the balance was cleared. Somebody paid it. And I still don't know to this day who paid my balance. And then I didn't want to go to graduation, but it meant a lot to my mom. And I only went because my mom was like, okay, I want to see my child graduate from MIT. Going to MIT was my dad's dream. And the week before he died, I sent him my MIT transcript showing him that I had completed my entire degree, and he died a week later.
So we got to see it.
He got to see it. And so at MIT, also for graduation, if you don't pick up your cap and gown, you can't graduate. And you're the only one who could pick up your cap and gown. And I was like, I don't care.
Fine, send it to me.
I was like,
I don't need it.
I was like, don't. I was like, you can keep that cap and gown. It's ugly anyways. And
you're a mess.
And
I love you.
They were like, oh, you're exempt from that. We sent somebody to get your cap and gown. We have everything you need. And also you only have 4 tickets to the MIT graduation because, it's such a tight space. And they're like, you can have as many tickets as you need. What do you need?
I mean, the support from this organization is unreal.
It's unreal, but it's one of those
and
things.
How many
where,
students were graduating?
In my class, 400, but 5,000 from the institution.
See, and that's crazy.
5,000.
That out of 400, they made you feel like you were the only student graduating that year.
I will
you were that
never
special to them.
Forget it. Never. MIT can have all my coins.
Don't say that too loud. Because you're about to have some coins. Okay, so the school journey is unbelievable. Losing your dad was maybe one of the most difficult moments of your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it changed you.
Absolutely.
Is that when you said, fuck it, I'm just gonna start jumping out of perfectly good airplanes?
A little bit later.
Okay, tell me about that.
Later. So after MIT, I went to JP Morgan, and I was in a really interesting program that Jamie Dimon had created to facilitate a pipeline of general managers.
Okay.
So Jamie Dimon's view at this point was people are growing up way too specialized. They do mid-cap healthcare stocks for 50 years, and that's all they know. Whereas Jamie actually built his career being a general manager and very exceptional at it. And so I was actually, the right hand to a lot of the senior leadership team to build and deploy major products at JP Morgan, new businesses, scaling Chase Private Client, moving out to Hong Kong to build retirement products for Asian markets, et cetera. And so this is where I learned how to be a corporate business lady. Before, I didn't know anything about how business happened, how to get things done. And because I was taking care of my mom, emotionally and mentally and even sometimes physically, my grief process was delayed. I had to just put it up on the shelf and figure out how to keep my family together and moving along. And I had, 5 other siblings as well. And so, once I actually started to address my grief process, I realized that the level of loneliness that I felt and just how dark of a place that I got to with processing how I lost my dad, why I lost my dad, just trying to wrap my head around it, it made me realize that, I had everything to the outside world. I had all the awards, all the accolades. I had all the degrees and all the praise, but I was starting to feel like I wasn't experiencing real connection in a meaningful way. And so that was the impetus to leave to start Squad, the technology company. And the way I got to skydiving was just in my founder journey. At some point, I was like, man, this is really stressful. And I have to find a way to feel more free.
Yeah, because entrepreneurship will do that shit to you.
And that, my skydiving journey actually started, in my founder journey as not a coping mechanism, but a way to actually just refuel myself and restore myself.
And keep trying new things.
Yeah.
And giving yourself new challenges that maybe sound crazy to someone else, but to someone like you, they're not crazy at all.
I've been called crazy my entire life. If I don't get called crazy in a week, then I've probably been sleeping all week.
Right. So how many jumps have you done?
A few hundred now.
A few hundred. And you're a championship skydiver.
No, so
Okay.
I flew on a team.
Okay.
So we were training to compete in the US championships, but I haven't competed just yet.
Okay. So this is something that I would never do. I don't even like flying on a regular plane.
But life is long.
Listen, I know I convinced you to run a marathon.
Yes.
And you're doing it, you're training, you look amazing. But there is nothing you can do to convince me to jump out of an airplane. I just don't have that in me. I just don't have the balls for that. But I love that you do. And I'm so excited about your journey. So let's go back just one step. You said that being a skydiver is a part of your entrepreneurial journey, that creating Squad is what pushed you in that direction to start jumping out of planes. Tell me about Squad.
During my experience and when I finally allowed myself to process that grief, one of the things I realized was that and talking about how I was feeling. And I was like, I just feel really lonely. I feel alone in the world. People like casually were like, actually, me too, me too. And I'm like, there's 8 million people in New York City. Why are we so alone? And it just dawned on me that technology was taking us in a place, and it's taking us in a place where it's fueling more disconnection than it is connection. Social media is actually not social, it's media. 1% of social media users are creating the content that you see on platforms like Instagram, Snap, etc. And we're just consuming it. 99% of people are consuming it.
Wow.
So the 1-9-90 rule that was actually posited by Bradley Horowitz, who's a fellow MITer and mentor of mine, 1% of social media users are the content creators, 9% are light engagers, and 90% are lurkers. And when you think
lurkers or learners?
Lurkers. All they're doing is scrolling and consuming. And I said to myself, and it sounds crazy, right?
Yeah.
I said to myself, when you think about any business, organization, entity, group, when 90% of people aren't really participating, is that a successful situation? Because let me tell you, the IRS is not saying that 90% of people can just lurk and not pay their taxes.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if they did,
you can quantify that as a success.
Right.
And so to your point, you're saying, so your thesis is that social media is not social, it's media.
Yeah.
So that's the problem.
Yeah.
You've established the problem now, and you have the data to back up how big of a problem it is.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you do to solve it?
Squad originally launched as an app to make it super fun and easy for you to talk to your close friends every day.
Your squad.
Your squad. And it was you actually, when we first started, you could only add 12 people.
Okay.
So what happens when you get a new social account, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, etc., you get as many friends as possible because that's your social currency.
Yep.
You want people to know you're popular. And we didn't care about popularity. We know that people need to talk to people. And so the way that we ended up in today's version of Squad, which is a sports tech platform that is licensed to professional sports teams and leagues, is that we found out that most of our users, over 70%, the main use case was to talk about live sports events.
So people were getting on the app with their friends, their intimate friends,
Yeah.
no more than 12 people.
Yep.
And while they're watching games, they're like, yo, did you see this?
Yeah.
My God, I can't believe this guy just blew it.
They were using our interactive calling technology, which was officially patented last July. Since we got the patent issued, I've been looking up what other Black women have technology patents because I want to meet them. I think we should all have
How
dinner.
many?
I have there's a lady at Google who has a lot, but
Okay.
And there were different kind of interaction mechanisms in our platform. And so we got approached by one of the executives at the NBA that said, hey, by the way, we love this. We've been using this actually with our kids. We learned about this from our kids.
They were already using it.
They were
The kids
using
were
this.
already using it.
Yeah, the kids
Okay.
were already using it. And they were like, we would love to establish a more formal partnership with you. So the core technology is actually still very similar, but we've oriented our business model within the sports technology ecosystem, so their mobile apps.
So how many current relationships with major sports teams, and you don't have to say what they are. I don't want you to share anything that's proprietary, even though you have patents. 5, 6, 4, how many major leagues do you already have existing relationships with that are going to be using the platform?
3.
3.
3 major leagues in the US and 1 major league in the UK.
So 3 major leagues in the US
So
and
far.
1 major league in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you're doing some beta still, or you're fully operational.
Yeah, we're rolling out our phase plans and our integrations right now.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
So how many years are you into this particular startup? Would you even quantify yourself as a startup anymore?
I've never thought about that question.
Yeah.
Yes, no, maybe so. We're 6 years into launching Squad. Before that, it was like, how do we actually get this to market? And then, yeah.
Yeah. And so right now, the biggest challenges that you're facing or the biggest excitement that you have around Squad, is it raising money? Is it bringing VC funds? Is it collaborations? Is it these incredible partnerships with global brands? Is it literally bringing the app to market in a different way? Like, what are your, call it, 5 things that like, Isa's gotta nail this? And I know you have a small, scrappy, brilliant team.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what are the deliverables you have to hit in the next, call it 6 months to a year?
Well, I think fundraising is always difficult.
Yeah.
I have a lot of white male founder friends that snap their fingers and get $5 million.
Right.
But, it's just uniquely brutal. But one of the things that part of my mental toolkit as a founder is really relentlessly focusing on the things that I can control and not the things that I cannot control.
What are some of those things?
So I'm not really, if you don't believe in me and like we're like 5 minutes into the conversation and I can tell that like you're not going to write the check, I'm just like, I really don't want to waste either one of our times. I'm happy to keep you updated, but we can actually move on from here because people don't write. They don't write the checks for different reasons. Sometimes they don't actually have the money, but they won't tell you that.
Right.
Sometimes they just don't have enough familiarity with your space. Sometimes they don't have enough conviction on you. Or sometimes, I've been told before by a Silicon Valley investor, a few, that I just didn't I didn't seem like the founder that could be in this space. And I didn't even bother asking him to explain because I didn't care. That wasn't my business.
Please don't explain, sir. We don't actually want to know.
That wasn't my business.
We don't give a fuck, okay? You don't get this. You don't understand this woman. I'm going to say it for you so she doesn't have to. We don't actually want your money. How about that? Because someone else that sees this magnificent woman and her brilliance and what she created is going to be happy to write you that check.
Right. And so fundraising has gotten a little bit easier for me over the years, in part because I said, you know what, I'm not going to over-explain myself. And I'm also just going to start operating like a white man. They don't over-explain themselves. They kind of walk in with the confidence and they're very confident about their projections. And I've been able to raise more easily. I think that, another thing that's interesting is that I have decided as a founder not to be present on social media.
Right. That's a choice that you made. And I saw that in your last kind of, call it like an update, your founder's update with your most current deck and your most current bio, where you basically said at the bottom, and of course I'm going to paraphrase, if you don't see me on social media doing the typical founder thing, it's because this is a choice. This is intentional.
Yeah.
Is that basically what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had to let my investors know because I didn't want them to think that like something had happened to Isa because I wasn't on social. Because everyone's, flexing and doing their things on social, and I'm not participating in that.
And tell me why you made that choice.
A few reasons.
Waste of time?
Huh?
Waste of time?
No, not that it's a waste of time, but one, I realized that, I wasn't happy on social media. I had an account that was verified, with over 10,000, 12,000 followers. And I got caught into let me post that I was at Alicia Keys' birthday party, or let me post that I was here or with like this big founder. And I realized I got caught into that cycle, but why was I looked at him like, why am I doing that?
Right.
Why am I seeking external validation when the focus should be on validating myself? And so I looked at my page one day and I was like, I don't even know if that I recognize me. And why, if this is my social page, why are none of my actual friends on here? That's because it's my media page.
See, and again, it goes back to your proof of concept around this idea that social media isn't social, it's just media.
It's just media.
And so why even engage in it if you have the data and you've solved the problem? So where you spend your time is on Squad.
Where I spend my time is on Squad, but also with social media, people have a habit of posting their perfected highlight reels.
Yeah.
And it's consuming that all the time. I just unfollowed everybody and I started following all these like positive inspiration pages where, I get like all these inspirational memes and things like that. So that's what I hear, right? And I listen to Audible more. I decided that, seeing my friend post whatever and liking their post was not connecting with them. I integrated into my week friend time so I can maintain connectivity with my friends, because as an adult, we're like, okay, it's such and such. Okay, we'll meet 2 months in this restaurant. Okay, we got to push it out another 2 months. And then
it never happens.
It never happens, right? And so I think that was actually part of my loneliness at one point.
So when you think about where you are now, and I don't want to talk about how old you are because it's nobody's business, but you're a young woman. You're a young woman in tech. And you've accomplished so much already. And there's still yet so much to be accomplished. I mean, we both know you have a multi-billion-dollar brand on your hands. You do.
Mm.
And you have all the tools to get you there. I think it's so important for us, all of us, anyone that's watching, anyone that's been pulling up at this table for the last, call it an hour, to do everything they can to support this work, because the work that you're doing is important. I do think that people do feel isolated. I do think they do hide behind fake pages and fake identities and overly filtered imagery. And that's not a judgment. I think that's also a part of people's lives. But what you're asking for is authentic connection, real time spent. And you do that with me. You know, you'll reach out to me. Hey, guess who I'm with in New York City? They asked about you. Hey, guess where I am? I'm at this institute and I'm at this meeting and I'm sitting on this board and I bumped into so-and-so. And so you're so good about that kind of like personal outreach and those touchstone type moments. And so I'm so hopeful that not just within the app, of course we want to support the app. We want to get checks written for you. We want you to raise the millions or even billions of dollars that you need. And that's, I know it probably sounds like a crazy number, but those are real tech numbers.
Yeah.
Those are real authentic tech numbers.
One small correction though, we're not a standalone app. Our technology is integrated within team apps.
Oh,
yeah.
So when did that happen?
That happened 1.5 years ago when we became the officially approved integrated solution for the NBA.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So that in and of itself is like a major win.
Yeah.
And
400,000 lines of code.
Wow.
400,000 lines of code.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Isa, you're amazing. You're absolutely amazing. I'm so grateful to know you. I'm so inspired by you. I mean, I feel like I learned so much from you. It's just like, the other thing that I want to tell you is that for someone that's an entrepreneur and a founder in her own right, this piece about being relentless.
Yes.
Being relentless about staying on top of people, getting to the money because you need the money in order to scale, creating authentic relationships that are not just transactional, but that push the rock forward so that you can get to where you need to grow. You are so good at that.
Oh, I appreciate that.
You are so good at that. It's unbelievable. I mean, and the other thing you're so great about is I know that if you say to me, hey, Shan, do you know this person here? And I make that connection and then I get out of the way, a ball is not going to be dropped. I mean, you are the queen of the get back.
And then I loop back and let you know what happened with the connection, because I think that's really important to let people know like the outcome.
Always, even if it's good, if it's bad, you always give me the follow-up so that I can know firsthand for myself. I linked you with this person. I thought they were this kind of a person. Turns out this wasn't the kind of reaction that I thought I would get, and that's okay, but maybe I'll hesitate next time in making this kind of a connection.
Or this person was super helpful.
Right, we just had one of those last week.
We did.
So I want to just thank you so much for being here with me, for sharing your incredible story, for inspiring all of the people that were clearly watching this, and for continuing to push forward, because this is a potentially intimidating enterprise that you have, but you're not intimidated by it. And it's a highly competitive environment that's not competitive for you.
It's a highly competitive environment, but you know, the reality is that when I go fast, it's because I'm not focused on the competition. I'm focused on being the best in what we do. And being laser disciplined about that, and then we go.
And the magic happens.
Yeah.
So when I say to you, grown woman, what does that mean to you?
When you say to me, grown woman, that is a woman who is refined, and that is open to evolution, and that is open to continuously iterating on herself and getting to the next version of her, and someone who looks forward to meeting the future versions of her. I'm really happy to have met the woman that I am today. I've dreamed of this, and I know that this is not even anywhere close to the end of my journey. And the women that I will unlock in myself in this body over the next 50, 60 years, I'm excited to meet her too.
Love that. Thank you so much for sharing your heart with me today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Isa Waton, everybody.